Okay, good morning everyone, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning as we are studying together a new parasha, Parashat Haye Sarah. Our parasha begins with the death of Sarah Imenu. The pasuk says, "Vayihiyu Haye Sarah me'a shana, esrim shana, vesheva shanim, shene Haye Sarah." It says that Sarah lived till 127. And the Netivot Shalom in this week's parasha, my friends, he has an amazing essay that I want to share with you, Be'ezrat Hashem. And he begins, of course, with some questions. Sarah is the only one mentioned when she passed away. Torah does not tell us how old Rivka was, Rahel, Leah, all these Sarah, and the question obviously is, what is the significance of such a thing? Not only that, what does it mean when it says at the end of the verse, Shene Haye Sarah? These were the years of Sarah. It already begins the sentence and it says that Sarah lived till 127. So what's the repetition? And these were the years of Sarah. A furthermore question, Vayavo Avraham lispoda Sarah v'libkota. The Torah tells us that Avraham came to cry for her. And if you look in the Torah and try to do this, if you have a chance to look inside a real Sefer Torah, you'll see that the word v'livkota, he cried for her, it appears with a small chaf. Our rabbis notice this, and it's a halakha, it has to be written like that. What is the reason for the small chaf? The Baal HaTurim says to tell us that Avraham, although he cried small, he cried a little bit. He didn't cry a lot. Again, what in the world is Torah trying to convey with this message? What is the idea behind this Baal HaTurim? A furthermore question. The previous parasha ended with the glorious Akedat Yitzchak. Akedat Yitzchak, the 10th test, the greatest test of all time. Avraham Avinu passing the test of willing to offer his son to God. And Rashi notices that right away after Yitzchak's Akedah, after the test, is mentioned the death of Sarah. Rashi writes, Nismecha mitat Sarah la'akedat Yitzchak. You know why they're juxtaposed? You know why the death of Sarah is written immediately after Akedat Yitzchak? Quoting the Midrash, says Rashi, Lefisha al yedeh besorat ha'akedah shenizdamen bina l'shchita. It's because of the Akedah that her son was put on the altar. Parha nishmata mimena umeta. Her soul left her body and she died. So Rashi is writing that the reason Sarah died is because of the Akedah, because of the news that she heard of Akedat Yitzchak. And the question is, asks the Netivot Shalom, doesn't Shlomo HaMelech say, Shomer mitzvah lo yeda' davar ra? Kohelet says, whoever does a mitzvah doesn't come to know any misfortune. So how could it be that because of the mitzvah comes along the death of Sarah? And not only that, but the fact that Sarah died from hearing of this is also perplexing. Because we know Sarah was not some average wife. Sarah was holier than Avraham on a certain level. Our rabbis tell us, the pasuk says, Kol asher tomar elecha Sarah shema' bekola. God says to Avraham, whatever Sarah says, listen to her. Lamanu, we learn from here. Shehaya Avraham tafel leSarah ben viut. We learn from here that Avraham is secondary to Sarah when it comes to prophecy. So how can it be that a lady like Sarah, who was a greater prophet than Avraham Avinu, how can it be that she did not pass the test of the Akedah, that she died from hearing the news, something that Avraham was able to pass? Could it be that Avraham and Yitzchak passed the test and Sarah did not? And so to answer these questions, my friends, as we journey into Akedat Yitzchak, into Haye Sarah, into this week's parasha, Says the Netivot Shalom something magnificent. The Yetzer Hara, the Satan, he is trying to always block us. Yes, that's his goal. He's the goalie, okay? He is the goalie. What does a goalie do? What does a goalie do? Tries to block you from scoring. You got to know that when you're going to try to score in life, when you're going to try to score, be successful, whatever avenue, you're going to try to do good, there's going to be a Yetzer Hara. There's going to be a force trying to block you, trying to stop you. We call it the Yetzer Hara. He's going to try to stop you from being healthy. He's going to try to stop you from apologizing. He's going to try to stop you from making peace. He's going to try to stop you from growing, from keeping mitzvot, from passing your tests in life. He's going to try to stop you from getting up and going to shul, getting up and going to a class. He's going to find a million reasons to try to stop you. He's the goalie. That's what he gets paid to do. You have one job: block the ball. Don't let it get into the goal. That's the Yetzer Hara's job. And he tries to interfere with our avodah. We say every night in the Arbit prayer, Vehaser ha-Satan min lefanenu u'me'acharenu. We ask God, please make sure, don't allow the Satan in front of us and behind us to defeat us. And we mention the Satan before and after. Explains in Netivot Shalom something very interesting. The Yetzer Hara actually comes twice. He comes twice in every test. He comes before the test and he comes after the test. Milefanenu ume'acharenu. The Satan before a test is the obvious one. He's trying to prevent us from doing a good deed. Milefanenu. He tries to stop Avraham before Akedat Yitzchak. We know how many times, how difficult Akedat Yitzchak was. As an example, Satan comes first logically, rational. You cannot kill your son. This is your future. God promised. It's not what he wants. It can't be. And he's throwing argument after argument, trying to convince Avraham of why he should not do Akedat Yitzchak. Isn't Yitzchak yikareh lecha zara? But did it help? It did not help. So what does Satan do? He keeps trying. He goes into Yitzchak's ear and he starts whispering. Hey, Yitzchak, I think your old man lost it a little bit. Gonna kill you? You gonna allow this? So he tries convincing Yitzchak not to go ahead. That attempt failed. Our rabbis go so far to say that even the Satan placed a river in between Avraham and the mountain. Meaning, the Yetzer Hara milefanenu, the Yetzer Hara before the test, is very, very strong. And we see this idea all the time in our personal lives. But my friends, sometimes we win. A lot of times we win. We're determined. We defeat the Yetzer Hara. And now what? Now it's over. That's it. We scored. You're finished. Says the Netivot Shalom, maybe that's how it's like in sports. That when you score, you score. But with the Yetzer Hara, believe it or not, even after you score, even after you pass the test is not over. Ve'haser ha-Satan milefanenu. There's the test before you score, and then there's the test acharenu. Even after you score, even afterwards, he could still come and snatch away the sin, the mitzvah. He could steal your mitzvah. So some games, even if you score a point, the other player could steal that point. That very point that you scored. He could steal it. Yeah? There's certain board games. If you put a piece, Othello, right? If he flips it and he makes it his, right? So I think that's a nice analogy. That the Yetzer Hara is like playing Othello. That even if you made the piece white and you're playing black could still turn your piece into black. It's the other side of the piece. It's a great analogy. By the way, We say every day, every Shabbat, in the prayer, look at this amazing pasuk, it's in Tehillim. Matzil ani mehazak mimenu. God saves the pauper from one who is stronger than him. Ve'ani ve'evyon migozelo. And he saves the poor person from someone who's trying to steal from him. Says the Netivot Shalom. Matzil ani mehazak mimenu. That's referring to the Yetzer Hara before the test. The Yetzer Hara is stronger than us. We ask God, please save us from the Yetzer Hara that's hazak mimenu. But after it's over, ani ve'evyon migozelo. Sometimes even after we won, the Yetzer Hara still comes back, ligzol, to steal. He tries to steal that mitzvah. And so David HaMelech says, please make sure he doesn't steal it from me. Migozelo. How does the Satan do this? How does he succeed in taking a mitzvah even after I have done it already? Says the Netivot Shalom, a story between the two brothers, Rav Shmelka of Nikolsburg and Rav Pinchas of Frankfurt. And they had a meeting one time with the Maggid of Mezrich. And the Maggid started to depict for them the schedule of a very, very pious person, of a chassid. He said this chassid wakes up at midnight and he starts doing tikkun chatzot and he's crying for the Beit HaMikdash. And finally when he's done, he starts saying Tehillim. And when he's done, he starts learning a little Torah. And when he's done, he finally goes to the mikveh. And when he's done, he comes back and it's right at dawn time. He starts putting on his talit, starts putting on his tefillin, and he starts praying with tremendous kavanah. He's describing the morning schedule. We're still sleeping, and this saint had a whole day already. And finally, as he's praying and he's crying, he's connecting to Hashem, going into the world and olamot and everything. And the brothers are listening, excited, because the rabbi is describing them. They realize they're on this level of this saint. Says the Maggid of Mezrich. And after all of that, it's very possible for the chassid to lose everything that he did that night if he begins to entertain the notion that he has achieved some special feat, that he is a tzaddik, a chassid. If he starts looking at himself like, wow, look at me, I'm such an amazing person. Says the Maggid, he lost everything. You could lose everything by getting into your own head of arrogance. A person's going to go to the mikveh, and as they're coming out of the mikveh, you say, wow, I'm such a pious person, look at me, I go to the mikveh. You lost everything. You threw it in the garbage. You missed the point. You could do it, you could pray, you could learn. And afterwards, the Yetzer Hara is not done. Me'acharenu. He comes when you're done. You're done. He's not done. Because he knows he could still turn the piece. He knows that he could still make it black. He knows that he could still gozelo. He could still steal from you. How does he steal from you? By inciting the person with feelings of arrogance, with feelings of haughtiness, with feelings of self-importance. The Netivot Shalom, he notices in the story of the Akedah, in the chapters of Akedat Yitzchak, something very interesting. What phrase appears again and again and again, 3 times to be precise? There's a phrase that appears, and I'll give you a minute to try to look for it. It's very loud in the Parashah. When you look at the story of the Akedah, you can't miss it. Hineni's a nice guess, like it, but that's not what he's referring to right now. But it's a good one. What else? Hint. I don't know how to give a hint. It's 3 times. That's the hint. Okay, try to read the chapter of the Akedah. If you want to pause, if you're listening to the recording. But either way, pasuk, the word that appears 3 times, says in Netivot Shalom, walking together. Vayelechu yahdav. and they went together. It appears 3 times. The participants of the Akedah, in each of the instances, in each of these 3 times, they shared a certain quality. There was a certain mindset. And he goes one by one. So as an example, in the beginning of the story, Avraham says to the 2 guys, stay here with the donkey. I'm going to go up with Yitzchak. V'nishtahaveh v'nashuva alechem. And what does it say? Vayelechu shenehem yahdav. And they both go together. Now, Akedah, by the way, Akedah means binding. But it says in Netivot Shalom, quoting the Ariel, that it alludes not only to the binding of Yitzchak on the altar, but it alludes to the binding of Avraham and Yitzchak's traits. They were bound together. We know Avraham's trait is chesed. Avraham is kindness. He opens his house. Avraham is isha chesed, pillar of kindness. Yitzchak, on the other hand, is a pillar of yirah, of fear, of discipline. And these are 2 levels of serving God. And both are needed. And Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak at this day of the Akedah were bound. They were Akedah. Each one participated in the trait of the other. And so Avraham Avinu, in order to go ahead with the Akedah, in order to pass the test, the Nisayon of Akedat Yitzchak, although he excelled in love, in kindness, in Ahava, he knew that this quality alone would not get him through the finish line. He would not be able to pass this test with love alone. The greatest of all trials, he has to connect himself to the trait of Yitzchak, to the midah of fear, to the midah of awe, of yirah. So Avraham goes with Yitzchak. He takes Yitzchak's trait of yirah. The second time is, by the way, he explains, beautiful. That's why right after the Akedah, what does the angel say to Avraham? Ata yadati ki yere Elohim ata. I see now, Avraham, that you have also achieved and mastered yere Elohim. Yirah is whose midah, it's whose trait. Yirah is Yitzchak. But Avraham excelled in Yitzchak's trait, in the trait of discipline, of fear. And he needed that in order to pass this test. We never only serve God one or the other. Sometimes you need one, sometimes you need the other. And Avraham achieved mastery in even Yitzchak's trait of Yirah. Yireh Elohim ata. That you love God, I knew. But now I see that you even fear God. And you may ask, but isn't that a higher level to love? And it's yes and no. There's 2 types of fear. There's initial fear, fearing of sin. That's a very elementary level, fearing of punishment. And there's a much higher level, fearing the sin. Or what Mesilat Yesharim calls Yirat Het. And it's one of the last chapters in his book. And it comes after Hasidut. It's a much higher level. It's nothing to do with fearing punishment. That's consequences. That's elementary. Of course, I'm not afraid of getting punished. I'm afraid of much more. I don't care about punishment. I'm afraid of ruining the relationship that I have with God. I'm afraid of maybe I do something that's going to put any type of soiling in my acts, in my deed, in my mitzvah. It's like the great example they give when you're dancing. If you're dancing with your child on your shoulders, you're very happy. You're filled with joy. You're also a little afraid you may drop your son. So you're balancing this love, and then there's a fear that's born out of that love because you love your son. That's the example they give. That fear is a very high level fear, by the way. And Avraham mastered Yireh Elohim ata. That's all example 1, where it says they went together. There's a second time. Yitzchak's going up the mountain with his dad, and he's like, Dad, where's the animal? I see the wood. I see the fire. I don't see no animal. I don't see no korban. And what does Avraham say? Elohim yir'elo haseh le'olah beni. My son, God will show us the animal. And our rabbis read in those words, le'olah beni. My son, you are the animal. You are the olah. You are the sacrifice. And when Yitzchak realized this, The Torah says right after, "Vayelechu shenehem yahdav." They proceeded side by side. They went together. Yitzchak understood the implications of Abraham's response. There is no sheep. And Yitzchak, at this moment, it was not enough for him to be able to plow through with fear. He needed to bind himself to his father's trait of love. Vayelechu shenehem yahdav. Abraham needed Yitzchak, and Yitzchak needed Abraham, and they each fed off the other. Unbelievable. But we said there was three yahdavs. What's the third? The third is after the Akedah. Vayashav Avraham el ne'arav. Avraham returned to his lads. Vayelechu yahdav el be'er shava. And they went together to Be'er Sheva. What is the sharing of qualities that took place at this third appearance? Explains in Netivot Shalom, my friends, something so gorgeous and so beautiful. Remember, there's a Satan before and there's a Satan after. It would have been very easy for Avraham. Just imagine you're Avraham Avinu. You just finished passing the greatest test of history. What do you do now as you go back down the mountain and you're with Yitzchak and the two of you just achieved tremendous heights of spirituality, of commitment. And now you arrive and you're with these two other guys, Hamorim, Ishmael, Eliezer, very low level Jews, people, did not pass the test that you passed. You just woke up, you prayed Netz, Yom Kippur, and as you're coming out of shul, you see a guy strolling in late into shul at 10 a.m. What thought is going on in your head? Who is this? Scrub, peasant, nobody. Much better than him. God, look at this guy walking into shul, 10 a.m. What a Netz. Right? Very easy to fall into that trap. That I'm better. Vayelechu shenehem yahdav. Avraham's greatness is that right after the test, he had no feelings of self-congratulations. He had no feeling of arrogance. There was not a thought in his head that maybe I'm better than these two guys next to me. I passed such a big test. I finish Shas. I learn every day. I give X amount of dollars. I do this. I do that. I help organizations. This guy, who is he? Avraham Avinu walked side by side. Yahdav, in his head, there were zero thoughts of I'm better than him. Like our rabbis tell us in Pirkei Avot, Heveh shefal ruach bifnei chol adam. Always remain humble in front of every person. You don't know who's greater than who. You think you're greater than him? Why? Why? Because your name is on the wall? Because you give the platinum and he only gave the silver? Because you're giving, you donated 26,000, he donated 10,000? Do you know, maybe on your level, you should be giving 52,000. Maybe on his level, the 10,000 is him extending himself. Maybe on his level, him coming to shul at 10 a.m. is better and harder for him than you coming to shul at Nitz. You see the guy coming to shul and then going out and taking a coffee break for 2 hours. And you think you're better than him? You have no idea who's better than who. And the Yetzer Hara could come sometimes after you pass the test. And he could throw in feelings of Hazaku Baruch, of pat yourself on the back. You're amazing. You're tzaddik. Remember, Vayelechu Yahdav. Abraham's greatness is that even afterwards, he walked side by side. He didn't allow those thoughts to get into his head. Because if you do, Ani me'evion gozelo. The Ani and the Evion, they could get the mitzvah stolen from them. The Yetzer Hara could come and he could steal the deed that you have done, my friends. The acts that we do in life. Well, that's the case, explains the Netivot Shalom, we can now understand the episode of Sarah's passing. There's many questions, like we've noted before. And what does all of this lead to? Explains the Netivot Shalom, it's all the Yetzer Hara. Even after he lost, and even after he tried, even after the test, Abraham won. But the Yetzer Hara kept coming back. He's still trying to steal the Akedah. He knows how important it is. He knows how powerful it is. And he's coming and he's trying. If I could just steal it, how could I steal it? Maybe put some arrogance in him. But Abraham, Yahdav, he's got zero arrogance. But says the Netivot Shalom, our rabbis tell us in Masechet Kiddushim, Tohe al harishonot, a person performs a good deed, and then they regret that deed. They lose everything about that deed. Yetzer Hara knows, if I could get Abraham to regret this, if I could get him to feel bad, he loses it all. Avraham Avinu comes back from the Akedah, what does he find? He finds a dead wife. Now you should know that the Akedah was not the actual cause of Sarah's death. In reality, a person dies when they're supposed to die. A person comes into the world and there's an exact amount of days and years that they're supposed to live. Yet sometimes the Yetzer Hara uses this occasion to obscure matters, to confuse the person. Avraham, as he comes back, very excited about a mitzvah that he just did. The Yetzer Hara knows, if I could somehow confuse Avraham, if he could find a dead wife, and he'll think it's because of the Akedah, it's because of this, maybe, just maybe, Avraham could regret that deed. And he could regret his participation in the mitzvah. And what happens to the mitzvah? He loses it. Tohe al harishonot. Tohe al harishonot. Sometimes we do a good act in life. Maybe you apologize to someone, and after you apologize, you push yourself, you come forward. They don't reciprocate in kind. They don't do the same. Or maybe you did somebody a favor. You threw for them a birthday party. But their gratitude, their appreciation was really not there. Maybe sometimes you help somebody. You go visit someone. You did something for a shul. And afterwards, you get just yells. Why did I bother? Why did I try? You give tzedakah, you find out that maybe the person was a sketch. They didn't really need it. So the Yetzer Hara says, you see? You threw your money away. Says the Netivot Shalom, wrong. You acted l'shem shamayim. You had a pure heart. That you can never lose. Don't regret your deed. You visited someone, they didn't appreciate it. Don't think, why did I bother? That thought, it undoes the beauty of the act. Your job in life is to do good. Don't calculate, was it worth it? Don't calculate, did it make sense afterwards? Don't look for the credit at the end. This is l'shem shamayim. You do things that are good because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter what happens afterwards. You try to make peace. You say sorry. Don't regret apologizing. You did what Hashem wanted. You brought peace into the world. You did the right thing. Maybe the other person has their own work. They have their own issues. But you shouldn't feel bad about the good that you did. Right? Mahshava, right? A person who's tohel al harishonot. Because ultimately, what is a deed? A deed is great because it shows that that's what we wanted. But if I no longer want that, then the deed is just an empty deed. What is a deed? What is tefillin? I put tefillin on. It's a box. If I don't have my head in it, right? If my heart's not in there, then what is it? I just put a box on my head. Here, boom. Is this tefillin right now? What makes tefillin holy? It's because I wanted to connect. But if afterwards I regret connecting, so I lost really everything that the mitzvah was meant to achieve. Tohe al harishonot. When a person regrets, a person, especially in a marriage, be happy you did the right thing. Don't let the Yetzer Hara get into your head. No one appreciate it. Who cares about appreciation? You're altruistic. You're L'Shem Shamayim. You did the right thing. What does it matter what happened afterwards? Don't worry about the results. You just do what you got to do. Someone's asking, what about Mahshava Ra'a in HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitztarfa le'ma'aseh? That means that if you had a bad thought, you wanted to do something bad, right? You ended up not doing the act. So the bad thought does not count, right? This is the opposite, right? It's actually interesting. It ties in a little bit. Over here we're saying that I did a good deed, but I didn't have so much of my heart. I regretted doing that deed. Yetzer Hara knows you could take away so much of the bite of that deed. Yes, maybe you still get a little bit of credit, but you lose so much of it if you regret what you did. You lose everything. You lose almost everything. I shouldn't say everything, because for sure you did a good deed, but it takes away the fact that we could still reap from those benefits 3,000 years later. That wouldn't be possible. Yetzer Hara comes and tries to take away the bite from the act. Avraham Avinu came, he saw his dead wife. Says the Baal HaTurim, he cried a little bit. He didn't allow the death of his wife to get to his head. He didn't allow himself to regret doing what he did. He didn't allow himself to be convinced, to feel bad about doing the good deed of Akedat Yitzchak. If you wouldn't have done it, your wife would be alive. Look, you only lost. He knew that was all Yetzer Hara talking. My wife's supposed to die when she's supposed to die. A person does something beautiful. Person maybe could go to study Torah in Eretz Yisrael, and then something negative comes out of that. You did something good. Don't allow Yetzer Hara to now pull away all the good that you did by convincing you to regret that deed, to regret that act. Avraham knew Sarah is supposed to die when she's supposed to die. And actually that's why Torah repeats it. Sheneh Haye Sarah. This is it. This is when she's supposed to die. She lived 127. Whether or not I did Akedat Yitzchak would not have changed anything. That's when she was supposed to die. The Yetzer Hara tried capitalizing on the episode. But Avraham was much smarter. Avraham did not allow the Yetzer Hara to come afterwards for a second and to snatch and to steal that mitzvah. Hashem should bless us to always reach a level of love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Love means to become givers. Love means to be altruistic. Love means that I'm not thinking about what afterwards came from this. Did I get credit? Did I get Hazaku Baruchs? Don't worry about that. You do what's good because that's the right thing to do. We believe in what we do. That's a level of altruism. That's a level of L'Shem Shamayim. And when we do that, when we give from the heart, then that's a light that can never go out. We'll stop over here, my friends. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.